is the Last Minute Blues Podcast with Jeff Burton, Donnie Fandango, and former Blues defenseman Jamie Rivers. Powered by Together Credit Union, empowering you to achieve your financial goals.
It is the Last Minute Blues Podcast. Jeff Burton, Donnie Fandango, Jamie Rivers. Mr. Rivers, what's going on with you?
Well, Donnie, I am anxiously awaiting this evening. The NFL football season is beginning.
Oh, it is?
Got the defending Super Bowl champion, Los Angeles Rams. They're playing somebody. I don't know. It's a Thursday night game.
Man, I see what you're doing there, Jamie.
What happened?
You're trying to get a rise out of me, buddy. Jamie, I'm so excited for this football game. I cannot concentrate. I can't. But you know what, though, man? And I don't mean to get like cheesy and stuff, but it's why we love sports, man. It's like when the Blues have a playoff game or the Cardinals have a big game. Like that day, the anticipation is so unbelievably amazing. But like I was telling you yesterday, man, like this is a really weird feeling for me, and I'm not used to this as a Bills fan, and that's being the favorite. You know, I mean, they go
having expectations.
You better believe it, man. You know, so it's really exciting, but then also too, I try not to get ahead of myself at all because you never know how injuries can go. The AFC is absolutely loaded. You know what I mean? Like they are going to have to deserve it if they are going to make it out of the AFC and make it to the Super Bowl. And man, it's just it's kind of crazy though, Jamie, because like I've just been able. I've had the ticket now for 4 years, the Sunday ticket. So I've been able to like watch them build this, you know, and every week go, well, maybe it's not too terribly far away. Maybe, starting to let myself believe. So really excited about that. And like my son's coming over and we're getting Gus's chicken over in Maplewood. That's like my favorite chicken. So, you know, man, we're making kind of a night out of it a bit.
I like it.
Yeah.
You should.
Hey, I want to read a couple emails here right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, and then we'll get on to whatever the hell else is we're going to talk about.
Emails are good, Donnie.
This is an email from Rick. He says, congratulations on your upcoming 100th episode. I've heard all of them, and some multiple times, and look forward to each new episode. We absolutely miss hearing our friend Jeff, but I appreciate you carrying on as he would have wanted. 100th episode. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I feel like we missed an opportunity.
Right, me too. Well, thank you very much, Rick, for your kind words.
Is this our 100th, or is this coming up?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, we'll have to look. I feel like, again, that's something we should know.
We'll have to check with accounting.
Right. All right, and hold on for this one, buddy.
Oh, boy.
All right, and this one's from Alan.
It's from who?
Alan.
Okay.
All right. One of the first emails ever read on this podcast was mine complaining about the Blues power play and how inconsistent it was, as well as one of the first mic drops on the Riz Show giving the podcast praise. And I got to say, even without the funny, playful banter between Jeff and Jamie that endeared fans to the behind-the-scenes friendships that were less publicly known, you two have been doing amazing with this podcast. Jeff was my personal favorite on the Riz Show because of his quick wit that was unmatched, but every podcast here without him and the beautiful one he called in on has felt like you two have picked up the torch and kept running. So thank you, Donnie and Jamie, for doing this, Thank you, Donnie and Jamie, for doing not just Jeff proud, but keeping the podcast alive and interesting and entertaining. I love this podcast and will forever be a fan and a spreader of the podcast to any and all Blues fans. I don't expect to get this email read as it's long-winded and sappy, but this isn't about airtime notoriety. This is praise from an original fan needing to praise the hosts of the show that lost their brother and continuing their brother's dream. And that's from Alan.
Wow. Well, that's why we're here.
Dude, what's so crazy, man, is in this job, doing it for like 20 years or whatever, I oftentimes talk about the pain in the ass listeners. You know what I mean? The mean ones, the crappy ones.
Well, they're out there.
They are, man. But like there is a host of Allens. And there's way more Allens than there are the JOs.
Yeah, because the ones who are negative, they're heard the most because they complain the most. Whereas the Allens of the world just kind of are happy and enjoy it and don't complain. But they don't use that to write anything or to bother you on social media or whatever. So the squeaky wheel always gets the oil, and in this case, the squeaky wheel is negative people.
Yeah.
Or haters in this world,
as
they call them. My whole phrase in life is I just keep the feet moving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not stopping for the compliments or the negativity. I just keep the feet moving. I certainly appreciate the compliments. Love it. Love when people come up and say, hey, we love the podcast. We love the show. We know this, that, the other. Love it. But I don't require it.
Yeah.
And as far as the negativity goes, I just don't respond to it.
Yeah. And I do, and I've said this to you before. I don't know if I said it on the podcast or off air, but I am absolutely picking up the Klim Kostin bandwagon this year in Jeff's honor. So I would like to officially, say that I'm going to be locked in on Klim Kostin, just like our buddy Jeff would be.
Yeah, well,
and that's a whole another can of worms. But didn't homeboy only sign a 1 year or a one-way deal? So he's either going to be here or he's going to get moved somewhere else.
So here's why he signed the one-way deal. Couple reasons. One, he has to clear waivers to go down. So sometimes maybe it's not as enticing to a team to pick up a one-way contract floating its way down to the minors if things don't go well. But a qualifying offer would have been somewhere around $900,000 over whatever he would make in the minors. Let's just say $100,000. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, if he plays in the NHL, you got him on the books for $900,000. That's $900,000 on your cap. So now, if he plays in the NHL, it's only $750,000 on your cap. Now you may pay him $750,000 to play in the minors if he clears waivers, but that doesn't show up on the cap. So what Doug Armstrong with Tom Stillman did is said, okay, this is just cost of doing business. Klim Kostin will make $750,000 this year, regardless of where he plays. This is a deal for us. We're willing to pay that cash if he plays in the minors. But if he plays up, we're getting a discount on his cap hit.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of built in together. There's a business strategy behind it and hopefully a motivation behind it for Klim Kostin. Hopefully he, shows up at camp. He's ready to go. Talked to numerous people who would love to see him get an opportunity on that third line. They like the look of a Barbashev, Shen, and Klim Kostin. Those three guys are built very similarly. They play very similarly, but Klim Kostin's got to elevate his game.
Yeah.
He's got to elevate his game and his consistency.
And we got to be able to see it because you can see when he's out there doing it, and boy, you can absolutely see when he's not.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing is he disappears. Right, he becomes invisible, which is not good when you're supposed to be a power forward.
100%.
And so he's going to have to prove a lot in camp. But the good thing is there's opportunity there. There is opportunity available for someone like Klim Kostin if he can seize the moment.
Are the guys back on the ice now? I mean, I know that they've been training, but are they?
No, they're back. There's like 30 guys on the ice every day.
Holy cow!
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
And so that's just them practicing on their own again. No coaches around yet.
Well, they're coaches, just not team coaches.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Not official members of the St. Louis Blues coaching staff.
Correct.
But a Rivers might get thrown in there.
It's possible.
Maybe. Maybe. So like when they're, this early in the year, what are they doing? Are they just kind of getting their wheels about him? Are they, what's
We're running through some pretty intense practices now. Like, of course, none of the contact stuff because players don't need that. Right. But a lot of flow, meaning, a lot of skating, passing, shooting, quick up-tempo drills, 2 and 3 guys involved in the drill at the same time because you got to keep the guys moving. You get 30 guys on the ice. That's not optimal for a high-intensity practice. It's difficult to find
stuff for everybody to
do. So, what I try and do is build a practice plan where there's 2 or 3 guys or sometimes even 4 guys involved in the drill at the same time. That way there, when you up the tempo and you're picking up the pace of it, now you got 4 guys going, they get a rep, and then 4 more guys and 4 more guys. Do the math. You're up to 30 pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep the pace going for, probably 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow, man. That's got to be incredible. I don't know. It's the fanboy in me here. And we kind of talked about this a little bit off the air. And it kind of plays into, how the pieces work and for this team in the upcoming season. But, you made a really amazing point to me before we went on and started recording and how David Perron's absence is going to affect Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And then I started to get sad again. 1, because Perron's not here, and 2, because potentially another hole. Is that who is going to get the first crack at filling that?
So here's where my head went the other day was we've been focusing on what we're losing from David Perron and his power play ability, the goals, the leadership, all of those things. Like, oh, man. But what are we losing from Ryan O'Reilly with David Perron no longer here? Because I was like, man, you know what? Those two almost shared a brain. They played very similar styles of the hockey. They're both really good in the trenches, the cycle game down low, the puck possession game. They were both strong defensively, all of these things. And I'm like, so who becomes David Perron now for Ryan O'Reilly? It's easy to say, well, Kyrou gets elevated to that line. Kyrou is nothing like David Perron.
Not at all.
Not at all.
At least not now.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Correct. So if we think that Jordan Kyrou is going to fill the void, I just don't know, right?
It's a lot to put on him, too.
It's a lot. It is, but he had 70-plus points last year, but does his style of play mesh well with Ryan O'Reilly and whoever else? I'm anticipating Brandon Saad getting an opportunity, and I'm anticipating that the Blues coaching staff will look at Brandon Saad as the David Perron for Ryan O'Reilly.
Okay.
The only thing I see is Brandon Saad's a really good player. He doesn't have the high-end skill level of David Perron.
Sure.
And people forget how good David Perron was with the puck. Try and get it away from him. You can't. He's got one hand on the stick. You got him in a headlock, another guy wrapped around his leg.
And he's still moving.
And he's got full control of the puck, and he's dangerous. Very few people can do that. So to ask that of Brandon Saad, that's a tough one too, right? So my head, things get spinning, Donnie. The hamster got in its wheel, grabbed a partner. Hey, what the hell? They had a few beers. They're ready to go. And I thought to myself, what would a good lineup look like? Top 6. Mm-hmm. Because once you get to the third line, right now you've got Shen and Barbashev that are staples, and then the rest of the guys are fighting it out. Top 6. You think automatically, well, Thomas, Tarasenko, Buchnevich.
Okay.
And then you go, okay, well, then by default, O'Reilly, Kyrou, Saad. There we go. I've got an idea.
Okay.
And we'll see if Craig Berube is listening to the podcast. We know he's a big fan.
What's up, Chief?
How you doing, Chief? Hope your summer's good. What if, stylistically, Jordan Kyrou plays really well with Robert Thomas? We saw it last year. There were times where there was like, oh, my goodness.
Yeah, man.
So why don't we take Jordan Kyrou, who plays pretty well on the left side, stick him on the line with Thomas and Tarasenko. You've got 3 speedy, dynamic guys now. Pavel Buchnevich, he had himself a season, but he prefers to play right wing, Donnie.
Okay.
When he first came over here in the trade, he said, well, I prefer to play right wing. Didn't play much right wing last year. He played left wing on that line. Mm-hmm. Why don't we put him on the right wing with O'Reilly and Saad? Because Pavel Buchnevich, the way he plays, resembles David Perron more than any other forward in the lineup.
Yeah. Because he'll go in the corners, he'll dig, he's
puck
a
possession,
son of a bitch with the puck. Yeah, the whole thing.
All those things. He's very, very responsible defensively. Chief has said that, next to Ryan O'Reilly, he's the most trusted guy defensively from his forward group. Kills penalties, can do all those things. So my hamsters, who had a party up in my head, came up with that as my top 6, as Saad, O'Reilly, Buchnevich, Kyrou, Thomas, Tarasenko.
All right. I feel okay about that. Now, listen.
But the pushback I'm expecting from that is, why on earth would you break up Buchnevich, Thomas, and Tarasenko? Look at what they did last year.
Well, I mean, last year was kind of a luxury in the number of scores and things that we have. We plain and simple don't have that this year. So you have to make do with what you have. And even if that means moving a player or two around. I think the thing to me that still feels good, and I'm waiting for you to tell me that it shouldn't, is when you're telling me that Shen and Barbie are on that third line. That's still making me think that we have got a good amount of depth that is necessary in the Western Conference.
Well, yeah, you're gonna absolutely need that.
I mean, have to.
We're gonna have great depth. In fact, up front we'll be deeper than we were last year as a hockey club, because last year we were a 3-line team. If you look at, you got some performances on the fourth line, some nights from Dakota Joshua, some nights from Nathan Walker, a little bit from Logan Brown, a little bit from Tyler Bozak, but the fourth line never really had an identity, and they weren't really relied upon. This year's going to be different. They've got some guys in the lineup now you can trust. And, Logan Brown's an interesting name, too.
I was just going to bring him up and what you think about him going into the year.
This is a big year. It's a big year for Brown.
A huge year for his career, right?
It is, because he's at the point now, he's got the one-way deal, playing, one-way contract, same situation as Klim Kostin. He was with this team almost all of last year, didn't play a lot, but when he was called upon, played mostly fourth line. He did get some power play time where he should be, but what can he do with that now? What does he do at camp? Because he's either going to be a top 3-line guy, or maybe he doesn't play on this team. Mm-hmm. Because Logan Brown can give you fourth line shifts, but that's not where you're going to use him. That's not where you can maximize his abilities. He's an offensive guy. He's a creative offensive mind. He's got great skills, great passer. He's 6'7". He's got a great reach. He possesses the puck very well. He's getting bigger and stronger. So this is his moment to make a jump, to push somebody out of the way.
Right.
Maybe a third line spot or higher. Who knows?
Right. We have got a new sponsor for the Last Minute Blues podcast, and that is my dentist, Dr. James Maxwell and Crestwood Dental Group. Listen, let me tell you something, people. I had a fear of going to the dentist, so much so that I let the health of some of my teeth, it got to a point where there was always pain. There was always something going on. I was introduced to Dr. Maxwell, and he has made such a huge difference in my life. I love my smile. I'm proud of my smile. My kiddos love going to Dr. Maxwell's office, and they are not going to start their life with that anxiety when they got to go to the dentist's office. It's a wonderful thing. If you need a dentist, listen, Dr. Maxwell and his team are going to take great care of you. Not only is the staff amazing, but Dr. Maxwell is constantly learning. He is learning the latest and the best about dentistry. He uses lasers. There's also different ways with x-rays. Listen, this is as up-to-date of a dental office as you're going to get with the best service that you can humanly possibly find. They're off of Watson Road, and you can give them a ring today and make an appointment at 314-463-5655. That's 314-463-5655. It's Dr. James Maxwell, Crestwood Dental Group, a proud sponsor of the Last Minute Blues podcast. Okay, so starting next week, and I know I saw that this is going to be broadcast on the Blues YouTube channel, but is the rookie tournament in Traverse City.
Traverse City, yeah.
So when you're watching these games, Jamie, like, what do you first of all, will you be watching them? I assume that you will be.
Yeah, I'll watch them.
And then what are you looking for? You know what I mean? What do you see from these kids?
Here's the thing. You have quite a gap in the players that'll be there. You've got some top prospects and you've got some guys that are fillers. Mm-hmm. Not in a bad way, but they're kind of American Hockey League players. Let's see what they can do, right? Mm-hmm. So you're looking for your top prospects to dominate. That's what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And you're looking for surprises. Guys you didn't think were on the radar to, whoa, who's that guy? Wow, let's bring him to main camp. Mm-hmm. Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere every year you have a guy.
It wasn't Colton Parayko one of those guys that came out of nowhere up there, or no?
Well, a little bit, yeah. Okay. I mean, because he came from, Fairbanks, Alaska. Mm-hmm. Then he got brought to the Chicago Wolves. But, his size and his speed separated him pretty quickly.
Okay.
So, yeah, he did kind of surprise as far as just how quickly he was developing. But he, the individual, was not much of a surprise. 6'6" on the ice when you fly around like that, it's pretty hard to hide.
Right.
It is.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, especially since there are a lot of kids that he's playing against at that point that are still, 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So this tournament, you want to see Jake Neighbors and Zachary Bolduc specifically dominate. You want to see these guys just dominate. See what you've got there. You want your goaltenders to perform well. You want your D to adapt well. And you want your D to play good against the other team's top, they're blue chip prospects.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for.
What do you see? Do you see Jake Neighbors making this team? You think he's spending the year in the AHL?
Comes down to what kind of an impact can he have on the team? And is it beneficial for Jake Neighbors? Mm-hmm. Two questions right there. Because if he can't have a big enough impact on this team, is it beneficial for Jake Neighbors to be here? No, it isn't.
No.
It's more beneficial for him to go down to the American League, play on the first line, first power play, penalty kill.
All those minutes.
Play 20 minutes a game as a forward and develop. And play against men. He's never played against men before. Mm-hmm. He played last year 8 games, or whatever, 9 games before he got sent back to junior. And in junior, he was one of the oldest guys.
Right. So, and he ran it.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
But when you're the biggest dog in the yard, it's not hard to bully everybody around.
Right.
The jump then to the American League, where you've got guys that you have to be 20 years old or older to play in that league, you're the little dog again. And now you got guys like me. I remember the end of my career, I was 33 years old playing the American Hockey League. You think I'm letting a little squirt like Jake Neighbors muscle me? That ain't happening.
No way.
I got a family. I got 4 kids to feed.
Right.
Better buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to the show, buddy boy.
That's
Welcome
right.
to the show.
So it's good to see him perform consistently against that kind of competition. But if he comes to camp and he's ready to go and it looks like he can play top 3 lines. It looks like he can play part of your penalty kill. Then you ride that a little bit, especially if nobody else sees it, right? So if Klim Kostin is meh, if Logan Brown is meh, if anybody else is meh, Jake Neighbors is kind of okay. Jake's going to get an opportunity.
Right.
So it's up to Jake to outperform those guys, and it's up to those guys to not underperform.
Yeah, absolutely so. It's getting to be about the best time of the year for a sports fan. You've got football starting, baseball's in the thick of the pennant races, and we're not far away from hockey. Like, this is like my favorite, and it's also getting to be where it's not 6 billion effing degrees outside on top of it. Like, it's my favorite time of the year.
It's awesome.
I love this so much. And even in just thinking about this team, like, I feel like they are going to, with as well as the Cardinals have seemingly been playing, for the first time in a couple of years, the Blues might sort of come in and start the season a little bit under the sports radar in St. Louis, and maybe that's an okay thing as they're kind of reconfiguring this team without Perron and whatnot.
The best case scenario for St. Louis sports fans is that the Blues' beginning of the season is almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because the Cardinals are playing for a World Series.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other flip side of that is that the Cardinals' season is irrelevant while the Blues are going for a Stanley Cup.
100%.
That's when we're all winning.
You know, I want to ask you this, man, and it's not a hockey question, but it can work for any and all sports, and it's something that I've kind of touched on here in the podcast. But one of the things that, like, I really do try to do as a sports fan, man, is that I try to learn. I try to make educated guesses or, educated opinions, right? And so every year, it is like clockwork. As you move up to the trade deadline, the John Mozeliak haters in this town, they just spew the venom. Here is my question for you, Jamie, especially after this last trade deadline, with the moves that he made that have been spot on the money. At what point does the fan get off of his nuts and let him be one of the best GM VPs of baseball in the game? And listen, I would have loved to have Juan Soto too. I would have loved but I mean, the reality is the guy does an incredible job. So shouldn't sports fans, especially in the baseball mecca of America, be a little bit smarter than that?
So here's where John Mozeliak causes problems for himself.
Because he's not likable?
Well, no, I didn't say that, Donnie.
I did.
I think John Mozeliak is a very likable guy. Mo, I know you're listening.
Sorry, Mo.
No, you're right. He comes across sometimes as maybe talking down to the fans a little bit, right? But that's besides the point. Let's keep it to what he does. John Mozeliak wins trades. He never wins the offseason.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So people that go into the offseason, you look at the offseason we just had, like Steven Matz.
Yep.
Like, you're like, what?
And that was pretty much it.
That kind of was it.
Yeah.
Right? And, Albert Pujols. But everybody at the time thought, it's a token signing,
Yep.
It sure wasn't.
Yeah.
But the rotation fell short on arms. They had problems earlier in the season. They didn't have enough starters. They didn't have enough pitching. So people are like, well, you had all freaking offseason. Paul DeYoung, they didn't trade him or move him, and they didn't go sign another shortstop. Well, Paul DeYoung's now in Memphis, right? Not right now, but he was at that point. So people are like, you had all offseason to do something, Mo, and you did nothing. You did, and they get so angry. But then they kind of forget that he's traded for Paul Goldschmidt for relatively nothing.
Yeah.
He's traded for Nolan Arenado for relatively nothing and got $51 million back in the deal. And then he's traded for Jordan Montgomery. He had to trade a good player, Harrison Bader.
Yeah.
But he got one of the Yankees' top guys. The Yankees didn't realize it until they traded him. Now look at the Yankees.
Oh, man.
Right? And then Jose Quintana, who was in Pittsburgh, he knew what he was getting there. So the trades, he gets an A+. For the offseason, he usually gets like a C.
Yeah, it's just so crazy.
And so that's why people ride that wave of, yay, Mozeliak to boom.
Yeah.
So it's difficult, though. To win the offseason, you have to open up your wallet in a big way.
And that's just nothing that we're going to ever do.
But here's the thing is, the Cardinals are in the top 10 in payroll in all of Major League Baseball. So it's not like they sit on their wallet and don't spend. They're just not going to spend $30, $40 million on a player.
Absolutely.
Or long term. So what John Mozeliak does is he holds on to his money and accrues his assets, which is players and whatnot, and then he goes and makes trades. And he wins the trades.
Man, I mean, he really, and also too, I just want to point this out, and they talked about it on the broadcast last night, but how about Paul Goldschmidt virtually having a Triple Crown season, and it is not even close to the top storyline going on, and the best part is, Goldschmidt doesn't care in the slightest that he's not brought up that way.
No, Goldie would rather wear just an invisible cloak.
100%.
Play baseball, and that's it.
That's it. But it's so unbelievable. That guy's, I mean, I think he's second in home runs, second in RBIs, and maybe first in average or second in average.
First in average, first in RBIs, second in home runs.
Incredible. And this town is so drunk with Pujols, we don't even know that it's going on.
How about Arenado? Poor guy. He's having an MVP season, but he's absolutely eclipsed by Goldie's out of this World season and Albert's incredible performance.
Man, when it comes to Arenado, man, I tell you what, I honestly think I could watch that guy do fielding drills. Like, he reminds me, I mean, I think he's better, but like, I loved Scott Rowland and just the way those guys pick it over there, man.
Oh, Donnie, don't you open that can of worms.
What?
Oh, boy.
Oh, of who's better?
Cardinals fans get heated. They've got your Rowland side of things, and you've got your Arenado side of things.
Well, but see.
Don't you dare say he's better than Scott Rowland defensively.
But he is. But I think he is, and I think Scott Rowland was great. Great. Great.
I agree.
I don't understand why you can't be both. Like, it can't be a 1 and a 1A sort of situation.
You can, Donnie, but you're talking about Cardinals fans who are very passionate. And when they dedicate themselves to a player, that's it.
I like being a Cardinal fan, but I also hate the best fans in baseball at the same time. I absolutely do. That makes no sense to me. I got one more thing before we wrap up.
All right.
And it's a personal thing.
Oh, boy.
My parents today.
Yes.
Don and Debbie Mueller celebrating their 49th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
How cool is that,
49
man?
49 years.
49 years.
Wow.
My dad gets my mom 3 cards every year, and then they drive from Florissant to Pierre Marquette State Park and have dinner at the restaurant there, and that's their anniversary.
That's awesome.
It's just so amazing. So I just wanted to tell my mom and dad that I love them and happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Mr. and Mrs. Mueller.
And we're going to throw a massive party for you guys next year, too, for 50.
Yeah, we are.
Massive. And
if
of course,
I'm not there, then you can blame your son.
Very good. It's the Last Minute Blues podcast for Jeff Burton, Jamie Rivers, and Donnie Fandango. Let's go Blues.
The Last Minute Blues Podcast. Hear more at 1057thepoint.com. Powered by Together Credit Union, empowering you to achieve your financial goals.